After the apocalypse, the world's water supply dried up.
Yet I was using precious mineral water to cook instant noodles.
My ex-boyfriend and his mistress, who pushed me into the floodwaters,
were
now
now
crying
crying
outside my door, begging for a sip of
Having
my
just
soup.
been reborn, I was broken up with by that scumbag.
Look at you, always buying things on sale and eating instant
How
noodles.
can you possibly compare
Aren't
it
you
to
ashamed?
Ryan?
As he said this, Mao Bufan had his arm around the streamer from
Looking
across
at me
the
with
hall.
utter disgust.
In my past life, I cried and begged him to stay.
I changed for him.
I even added his name to the deed of the house. My parents left me. In return, when the apocalypse came, they took over my house, ate my food, and ultimately pushed me into the flood with their own hands. I looked at him calmly. Fine, let's break up. May you two die together. I swear it. Mao Bufan's mouth hung open, completely stunned. Lu Ryan grabbed his arm and said hypocritically, Sister Zhao Di, don't be impulsive. I pointed to the door and told them to get out. If you don't leave, I'm calling the police. Mao Bufan shot up. Zhao Di, are you crazy? After 3 years together, I was just testing you to see if you really loved me. How can you be so heartless? A free maid for 3 years. I guess that's hard to find again. I sneered. Too bad. After 3 years, I'm done cooking your free meals. As they left in disgrace, Mao Bufan was still shouting threats. Zhao Di, you woman who only eats junk food. I don't even want you. I leaned against the doorframe, feeling more relieved than ever. Junk food? When the apocalypse comes, you won't even be able to find trash to eat. My name is Zhao Di. After my parents died in a car accident, I developed a habit of obsessively hoarding supplies. The doctor diagnosed it as a lack of security. It didn't hurt anyone, just my wallet. However, this hoarding habit of mine became a joke for the streamer across the hall, Lu Ryan. I thought I didn't care, until my boyfriend Mao Bufan was taking me home, and we ran into Lu Ryan taking out the trash in the elevator. One look at her dewy face, and he was completely smitten. He forgot our entire past together. In the end, he used my love for instant noodles as an excuse to break up with me. But I didn't have time to be sad, because I knew a torrential rain that would swallow everything was coming. 30-day countdown to the apocalypse. My current house is in a prime location, but the floor level is notoriously low. It wouldn't stand a chance against 3 months of torrential rain, so I had to find a new fortress immediately. I contacted my agent, Brother Wang, right away, asking to sell my house and car for 20% below market value. Full payment within a week. The agent was shocked. Miss Thea, you'll lose too much money selling now, and 1 week is not enough time. Double the commission. It's enough time. It's enough time. This was just the beginning. I'll get it done in 3 days. After hanging up, I opened every loan app and credit card account I had. Huabai, Jibai. I maxed out every line of credit. As for the past, all those so-called tokens of love I gave Mao Bufan. Gundam figures, designer watches, luxury men's bags. I listed them all on secondhand platforms. The title was, Tearfully Selling Off My Late Ex-Boyfriend's Belongings. Authenticity not guaranteed. I only had one requirement. Sell fast. After all, before the apocalypse, money is life. The very next day, I registered a personal trading company and started a massive shopping spree. Rice, flour, grains, and oils all bought wholesale, piled up like mountains. Self-heating hot pots of every flavor, canned goods, compressed biscuits, and orders for bottled water so large that the suppliers were stunned. They thought I was opening a supermarket chain. Medicine was even more crucial. From cold medicine to antibiotics, I nearly cleared out the inventory of several nearby pharmacies. Solar power generators, diesel generators, military-grade water purifiers, and stab-proof vests, engineer shovels, fire axes. I couldn't miss a single thing. I even hired 7 or 8 procurement teams, working separately, using different vehicles, to secretly transport everything to my new place's basement. The new safe house I rented, based on my memories from my past life, was one of the few places not severely affected by the flood. It was on very high ground. Even the torrential rain that lasted for 3 years only reached the 3rd floor of the complex at most. And this time, I rented a duplex apartment on the 6th floor. I thought selling the house would take at least a week. But unexpectedly, just 3 days later, the agent called. But his tone was strange. He said the person who wanted to buy my house was none other than my ex-boyfriend, Mao Bufan. Mao Bufan thought I was heartbroken and selling the house to escape this painful place. So he rushed over to snatch up this great deal. I told the agent directly, sell it. There's only one condition, full payment today. Not a penny less. That afternoon, they actually showed up. Mao Bufan was smirking from ear to ear. Meanwhile, Lu Ryan was already acting like the lady of the house, critically inspecting my home. Lu Ryan's gaze swept over me. She spoke in a passive-aggressive tone. Sister Zhao, they haven't seen you in a few days. For someone who eats instant noodles every day, your skin is glowing after a breakup. Did you secretly get some cosmetic procedures? I smiled faintly.
It's probably because I'm in a great mood after getting rid of the trash.
Liu Ryan pursed her lips and changed the subject,
Asking where I would live next.
She then deliberately mentioned that I had recently stocked up on a lot of pre-made meals and even rented a warehouse. How did they know? It turns out, Mao Bufan said proudly, that the bank card I used to let him use was linked to his phone number. He knew every single penny I spent. A miscalculation, but it didn't matter. I pushed the prepared sales contract towards them. Previously, for security, I had installed hidden cameras in every corner of the house. I was wondering how to remove them before moving. Since they were taking over, this was perfect. I didn't even have to remove the cameras. When the apocalypse comes, I'll be able to watch just how happy their happy life can be. They thought they had gotten a huge bargain, signing the contract without even reading it. They transferred the money on the spot. Looking at the 7-figure balance on my phone, I now had my renovation fund. The rain was now only a week away. However, the sun was abnormally scorching. In the new complex I moved into, neighbors were complaining about the unbearable heat. But none of them knew this was the omen of the coming apocalypse. Meanwhile, I had completed the final modifications to my safe house. The doors and windows were all replaced with bank, vault-grade explosion-proof alloy doors. The hallway was filled with 360-degree high-definition cameras. They said a single charge could last an entire year. Even the sunroom in the attic was converted into a hydroponic farm, filled with tomatoes and cucumbers. Everything was ready, just waiting for the apocalypse to arrive. The first day of the rain, the sky suddenly darkened. Black clouds pressed down on the entire world, and it instantly became dark. Then, the relentless torrential rain arrived as expected. The TV news issued an emergency warning. The city is experiencing a once-in-a-century superstorm, expected to last 1 to 4 hours. I almost laughed out loud when I heard that. 1 to 4 hours? How naive. They had no idea. This rain would last for 3 whole years, until it completely turned the city into an underwater city. I watched the heavy rain fall relentlessly outside, listening to the sound of it, and I had the most peaceful sleep I'd had in a long, long time. Unexpectedly, the next morning, I was woken up by the continuous vibration of my phone. I picked it up and saw. It was the homeowners group chat for the house I sold to Mao Bufan. Damn, my basement is completely flooded. My car, the water outside is already up to my knees. What's going on? The tap water has turned murky. This water is undrinkable. Desperate messages on the screen, paired with crying emojis, filled the chat one after another. I just shook my head. This is nothing. This 3-year apocalyptic storm has only just served the appetizer. Day 2 of the rain apocalypse. The rain curtain outside was endless, as if it wanted to swallow the entire world. I calmly slurped the last bite of my snail noodle soup. The rich aroma of the sour bamboo shoots exploded on my tongue. So spicy I had to gasp for air before I died in my past life. I didn't even get a sip of water. This time around, I'm going to savor every single delicious bite. While eating my noodles, I casually opened my tablet and connected to the surveillance system in my old house. My ex-boyfriend, Mao Bufan, and his new love, Liu Ryan, were elegantly using a knife and fork. On the table was an expensive M9 Wagyu steak. Liu Ryan sneered. I really don't get those people. It's just a little rain. Why hoard instant noodles and biscuits like a bunch of locusts? Mao Bufan immediately nodded. Exactly, it's just a storm. It'll stop in 3 days at most. We have the best ingredients. What's there to be afraid of? I laughed. This shameless pair seems to have forgotten that electricity is the lifeblood of modern civilization. I'd love to see if they can still elegantly cut their steak when these expensive ingredients turn into rotten meat. Day 5 of the rain apocalypse. The rain didn't stop, but the power did. The entire city was plunged into a dead silence. However, at my place, the wind turbine restarted with a hum. The lights in the house instantly turned on. I stretched lazily and decided to cook myself a good meal. I walked into the large flat downstairs. That was my private supermarket. The shelves were neatly stocked. Rice, flour, grains, oils, snacks, drinks. Every days of starvation in my past life taught me a lesson. In the apocalypse, food is far more practical than any luxury item. I picked 2 bright red tomatoes and a few eggs, heated oil in the pan, a sizzle, and the aroma instantly filled the room. I hummed a little tune. As I poured the stir-fried dish over a bowl of steaming rice, I twisted open a bottle of ice-cold mineral water, the sound crisp and pleasant. The city's tap water had long been contaminated. No different from sewer water. But in my storage room, I had 100 cases of purified water. Enough to last for several years. Sure enough, after just 1 day without power, that sophisticated couple went crazy. The Wagyu beef in their fridge, which they were once so proud of, was emitting a sour stench. Green-headed flies were having a party on it. Mao Bufan pointed at the pile of rotten food, his voice hoarse. It was all you. You said we didn't need to stock up on that cheap stuff. And now, the steak is spoiled. We finished the expensive mineral water. Why don't you magically produce a sip of clean water for me now? Lu Ryan retorted. You're blaming me now? Who was it that said they loved my sophistication? Who said your ex-girlfriend's cheap meal preps showed she didn't know how to live? Mao Bufan was instantly silenced. His voice suddenly dropped, filled with regret. At least that cheap stuff could fill our stomachs. At least my ex-girlfriend would have kept the fridge stocked. At least she wouldn't let us starve to death. That sentence was like a needle that popped Lu Ryan's last shred of dignity. She screamed, "Ha! So now you remember how good she was? You regret it? Then go find her." I put down my chopsticks and wiped my mouth. On the monitor screen, the once glamorous couple was tearing each other apart. Hunger and thirst were shredding their fake relationship to pieces. However, this was just the beginning. Day 7 of the rain apocalypse, I slow-cooked a pot of beef ramen with bone broth. The handmade noodles were chewy and smooth, paired with tender, braised beef, and crisp green vegetables, and topped with a perfect, runny-yolked fried egg. The first bite of these noodles was unbelievably fragrant. The perfect meal to accompany the drama on my monitor. That sophisticated couple already had sunken eyes from hunger. They were rummaging through their home. And in a corner of the bathroom, they found a dust-covered package of spicy gluten strips. I remember it now. That was from a time I had a craving, and secretly bought it to eat in hiding. Mao Bufan hated this kind of junk food the most. I never thought that now Mao Bufan would pounce on it. Rip open the package and stuff it into his mouth. He even licked the red oil from the inside of the bag until it was clean. He once despised it as low class. Now he licked it more devoutly than anything. I slowly picked up a piece of tender, braised beef. This show is really making my meal better. However, in the video, Mao Bufan suddenly shouted, "Yao die!" Lu Ryan's head shot up. His voice was bright. Right, your hoarder ex-girlfriend. She definitely has food. The agent posted on his social media. He sold 2 houses in one day. One was ours. The other was a high-rise in the suburbs. Xiaodi must have moved there. And with her stingy habits, she must have hoarded a lot of supplies. The two looked at each other, their greed undisguised. Remembering me only now? Too late. The rain has flooded the roads. They can't get here at all. Unless they have a boat. I thought this was just their wishful thinking. Who knew that the next day things would take a turn? Lu Ryan disappeared for half a day. When she returned, her hair was a mess, and her clothes were wrinkled. She was tightly clutching a few packs of compressed biscuits and 2 bottles of water. It seems she put in quite an effort for this little bit of food. With some energy restored, the two immediately got to work. Mao Bufan found some plastic containers and wrapped them with tape to make a raft. Lu Ryan was even more ruthless. She grabbed a pair of scissors and she cut up her designer bags, using the leather as patches to plug the gaps. The luxury goods she once flaunted were now just scrap for their escape. After working for half a day, an incredibly ugly raft was actually built. The water in the hallway had already risen to the 3rd floor, emitting a nauseating stench. They carefully squeezed onto the raft. The vessel dipped violently, but miraculously it didn't capsize. Mao Bufan used a mop as an oar. Unsteadily, they paddled out into the murky ocean outside. They were really coming for me. Day 15 of the rain apocalypse. I thought it would take them at least 10 days to half a month to drift here. But then, a dark shadow appeared. I was in the sunroom pruning my tomato plants, when suddenly, in the murky floodwaters below, I saw a broken raft floating by. 2 figures were clinging to it. Mao Bufan and Lu Ryan soaked to the bone. They saw me too. They instantly went wild. They waved, a hoarse sound coming from their throats. "Xiaodi! Xiaodi!" I smiled. When they pushed me into the water in my past life, they weren't this enthusiastic. I turned and went back inside, slowly boiled some water, and opened a package of pickled cabbage noodles. Just as the water started to boil, the knocking began. Bang, bang, bang. Through the peephole, I saw them kneeling at my door, soaked to the bone, and reeking. "Xiaodi, I was wrong. I actually love you the most. Please let us in. I'll do anything, be your slave." I pressed the intercom button and carried my steaming hot noodles to the door. I deliberately aimed the camera at my bowl. Golden noodles, 2 fried eggs, thick-cut luncheon meat, bright green vegetables. On the other side of the screen, the two of them froze instantly. Mal Buffon's Adam's apple bobbed uncontrollably. Lou Ryan's fingers clawed at the screen. Their eyes were filled with nothing but desire. Want some? They both nodded frantically, reduced to just begging. I picked up a piece of luncheon meat soaked in broth and dangled it in front of the camera. Then, right in front of them, I ate it slowly, one bite at a time. So delicious. So satisfying. I smacked my lips. Too bad. This is junk food. It's not worthy of your high-class status. As I turned off the screen, I could hear their incessant pleading from outside. Let them starve. It's only been 2 weeks. The real show is yet to come. On the monitor, that shameless pair started fighting again. Lou Ryan shrieked at Mal Buffon, blaming him for insisting on finding me. Now they didn't even have a place to sleep. Mal Buffon, suppressing his anger, retorted that he was doing it for their future. Soon after, they started going up and down the stairs, knocking on every door. A message immediately popped up in the building's group chat, warning everyone about a strange man and woman begging for food and saying strange things. What could they possibly say? I chose this building after careful consideration. High ground, few residents. And most importantly, my door is a bank vault level security door with special modifications. So what if he could find help? But I hadn't expected that the most terrifying thing in the apocalypse is the human heart. The next morning, a group of footsteps stopped at my door. Leading them was Mal Buffon, his voice so righteous as if the person who begged me for a bite of noodles yesterday wasn't him. Shall they open the door? People outside are starving. You've hoarded so much food. You have to share it with everyone. I watched through the peephole as he instigated the crowd. He described my place as a supply warehouse. He even made up a dark history for me, saying I was mentally unstable and that I hoarded supplies just to profit. The neighbors who were just watching the show suddenly had a change in their eyes. The crowd of people, every face written with hunger and desperation. They weren't here to beg. They were here to rob. You want to know what I have in here? I'll grant your wish. I turned on the two-way camera. In front of everyone, I slowly took a sip of ice-cold Coke. At that, the crowd completely erupted. The old lady from the third floor was the first to scream. She's drinking ice-cold Coke. How does she still have electricity? My grandson can't even play his games. His phone is dead. Why does she get to enjoy all this alone? Jealousy and hunger had burned away their last bit of reason. I knocked on the door panel, reminding Mal Buffon, I only have the junk food here that you used to despise the most. Then I asked Auntie Wang, what about the 100 pounds of cured meat you were sun-drying before the— It's only been a few days. Did you finish it all? Auntie Wang immediately shut her mouth. But then, Uncle Lee from the 5th floor spoke up, his voice trembling. He revealed that I had installed a wind turbine in the green belt. Now, they finally had a legitimate reason. Mal Buffon immediately seized the opportunity, righteously accusing me of occupying public resources. The crowd was completely ignited. They started ramming my door with their bodies. Lou Ryan joined in, her voice shrill as she cursed me, saying I was just jealous of her beauty. Her logic made me laugh. Hey, famous streamer, who was it that despised my instant noodles? Calling it poor people's trash? Why are you fighting to eat trash now? Lou Ryan was speechless, but the next second, she burst into tears and accused me of trying to kill all these innocent neighbors out of hatred for her. Auntie Wang immediately chimed in, saying she wasn't after my food, but the generator was public property, and everyone should be able to charge their devices. The pounding grew louder. Someone even brought an iron rod and started prying at the seam of my door. I cleared my throat. My voice wasn't loud, but it managed to cut through all the noise. Don't waste your energy. You can't break this door down. Even if you could, I've installed a linked device in the supply area. If the door is breached by force, all the supplies will be instantly destroyed. I'd rather be shattered jade than an intact tile. If you want to try me, keep going. The hallway fell instantly silent. The door that had driven them mad just moments ago now seemed like the entrance to hell. People started to instinctively back away. Mal Buffon's face was ashen. He knew I was capable of such a mutually destructive act. His voice was dry as he asked me, what do you want? I sneered. I don't want anything. I just want to stay quietly in my house with the things I paid for. Then he suddenly changed his tune, humbly apologizing to me. Lou Ryan, taking the cue, dropped to her knees in the filthy water with a thud, saying she was willing to be my slave and would do anything. Quite the performance. Too bad they chose the wrong audience. I didn't say a word. I turned and walked to the window closest to the door. I casually grabbed a can of military luncheon meat. In front of everyone outside, I opened the window a tiny crack. I shouted to the dark building opposite me. Is anyone out of supplies? From a window across the way, a faint phone light appeared. A woman responded, her voice choked with tears, saying she hadn't eaten in 2 days. With all my strength, I threw that heavy can towards the faint light. I threw it with all my might. With a thud, the person on the other side caught it securely. Then came grateful sobs. Then I slowly walked to the door. And with my actions, I showed them a fact. My food, even if I let it expire, even if I threw it to a stranger, would never be shared with ungrateful people. They watched as life-saving food flew over their heads and into someone else's hands. This feeling of hope being instantly crushed is more devastating than being hopeless from the start. The curses and crying outside the door gradually turned into a dead silence. Mal Buffon's face was pale. He pulled up the limp Ryan and left. The rest of the people, as if their souls had been sucked out, dispersed dejectedly. 3 years later, I sold this place, my former fortress. The agent led the client, his sales pitch well rehearsed. Look at this building. It stood tall even through the great rain of that year. The quality is absolutely top-notch. And now that there are fewer residents, it's very quiet. The client casually asked, "Did everyone move away?" The agent's smile froze for a second. He said vaguely, "Well, a natural disaster, you could say." I stood to the side, not exposing him. Back then, I could have given those neighbors food. But they chose to stand with Mal Buffon, with the stance of looters at my doorstep. Later, of course, they tried to force their way in again. But this door of mine was a dead end they could never break through. In the end, those people, like the torrential rain that submerged everything, came fiercely and disappeared just as silently. And I was just a better prepared survivor. On moving day, the movers froze the moment they stepped inside. Pointing at my room full of supplies, they gasped, "Wow, did you move a whole supermarket into your home?" I just smiled, not explaining that some lessons are paid for with your life. They wouldn't understand. Just then, a girl walked over to me. It was her, from the building across the street 3 years ago. The girl who caught the can I threw. Over these 3 years, I used a drone to maintain this one and only connection, allowing her to survive as well. Moving this time was also a way to say goodbye to her. I once thought that after the disaster passed, life could return to normal. But my habit of obsessive hoarding only got worse. It has become an instinct. Perhaps only those who have experienced that kind of despair can truly understand that fully stocked shelves are the only source of security in this world.